Spoiler alert, Slash's Paradise encourages viewers to watch these horror films before listening to our show. Danny and Lance will go through everything, including filmmaking, dialogue, characters, and even full scene breakdowns when we get excited. Enjoy the show.
Hello! You've reached Whoretown Video. After hours. For store hours, please press 1. For the horror movie recommendation of the week, please press 2. For the slash word of the night, please press 3. For all other recommend, you've selected the slash word of the night. Tonight's slash word is slicker.
Lance,
Yes, Danny.
look at this.
I know what I ate last summer. Oh, yeah, Danny?
Yeah, I know what I ate last summer.
What'd you eat, Danny?
Just a lot of oh. You know, that would have actually come in handy, that fisherman's toothpick, because I ate a lot of chicken fried steak. Just a lot of southern good southern food.
Ooh, with a lot of sweet tea on the side.
Yes, I get the best sweet tea in this house, Lance.
Do you
is
make it
made-
yourself or?
No. My wonderful wife does, and it's great.
Is it called the Alabama Hammer?
It should be. It should be. It's so tasty.
It's so tasty. Here we are talking about food and drinks, as always, in Slasher's Paradise. I know what you did last summer.
I know what you did last summer. Wow. It's almost like as if I was doing a ghost face telling there. Huh. I wonder if that's the last comparison I'm going to make. I guess we'll see.
Definitely
I guess
not.
we'll see.
Definitely not. Welcome, everybody, to Slasher's Paradise. That's Danny. I'm Lance. We are covering I Know What You Did Last Summer. Danny, what'd you do last summer?
What I did, though, overall was just have a lot of good times, some good laughs, some good fun, some good brews, and some good buddies. You know what? We had a nice little 4th of July thingy here. You didn't make it out, but that's okay. You were invited anyway, and you know that, and you know that, and you know that. But it was good. We had a thing there, cornhole, got to play the cornhole. But where I live, it's kind of deserty. We're up in the mountains, but it's still the desert. And whatever the weather is going on, we are extra. If it's raining, we are more rain. Cold, we are more cold. And of course, if it is hot, we are very, very hot. Yeah. So besides fighting an insane electric bill, which we definitely do every summer, like everyone else in this country, in this world, I definitely had some good times. I also went to some baseball games. So yeah, that's what I did last summer.
Doyers?
Doyers! What did you do last summer?
I killed a guy and I threw him in the ocean. So,
was he dead?
I think so. I did see his eyes pop open before I left him in the water.
Rule number 1, if you're going to kill somebody and throw them in the water, always make sure that they're dead.
Yeah, that would probably be a great idea. Boy, this movie, we're going to get to our business in a second here, but I have to say, I watched this movie for this episode and I realized how many times I watched it as a kid. And
it was always on. It was always on.
Well, I had the VHS. It was an easy watch as a horror fan, and I've been excited to get to it. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, it doesn't quite hit like it used to. But we're gonna get into that. We got some business to take care of. Yep. We have something here called the Pina Colada. That's where Danny gives a basic breakdown, a Danny version of the film. Danny, you want to go ahead and give us your Pina Colada for I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I Know What You Did Last Summer, from the creator of Scream. Pina Colada by Danny Gonzalez. Here it goes. 4 friends are planning the rest of their lives out, seemingly at the end of their high school days. But when a tragedy strikes in the form of a drunken driving tragic accident where they all four in a car kill someone, at least presumably on the road, decide for themselves it's better not to wreck our future plans. Let us hide the body or at least dispose of it so we could get on with our lives. Was that the best choice? Was the person even dead? What's going to happen to them if the person wasn't dead and remembers the whole thing? This is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Our basic breakdown for it. The movie was released on October 17th, 1997. Halloween time, 1997.
So
after
good.
Scream. Interesting. Another Scream reference. The movie is written by Kevin Williamson.
There it is.
Yeah, the writer of Scream, who is coming off the huge success from 1996. Here we go. He had actually, I'll get into his quick fact after this. The movie star, the budget was $17 million. Our gross box office was $125.3 million. It opened as the number one over the weekend, beating out The Devil's Advocate. Which is considered a horror film, and a very good one, I think.
Yes, a very good one.
Movie stars Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ryan Phillippe,
who apparently Lance didn't get the memo on 3 names.
Honorable mentions on this one. Anne Heche is in this, and Bridget Wilson, who, as I was watching this, I realized like secretly showed up in like every movie I watched from like 1994 to like 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. She's in like everything. Billy Madison, Mortal Kombat, this movie. God, there's more. I'm going to get to them. I got to figure them out. Last Action Hero was the other one that I like, So yeah. Okay. Anyway, blonde girl crushes back in the day. So those are my honorable mentions for the movie. Like I said, this is an easy watch horror film, I guess.
I think so.
So the director didn't want much blood in this one. It's a slasher flick. The couple facts that I need to mention right away. This is based on a book. This is based on Lois Duncan's I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is more of a murder mystery book. 1973 it was actually published. She was not stoked about the slasher overlay on this one. Yeah. Kevin Williamson had actually written this before Scream, had been trying to pitch it forever and didn't get anywhere with it until Scream broke out. Columbia Pictures went, "Hey, Mr. Williamson, remember that script you sent us? We'll take a look at it again." And they got the movie going. The original trailer actually said, "From the writers of Scream." And they got sued immediately and had to take that away. So
why?
Because it's a different,
it's a good company, I suppose.
Different studio.
Well, here's my thing about I Know What You Did Last Summer. I always thought that it kind of went the way of it's a hard comparison, so bear with me. But as you had your Michaels and your Freddys and your Jasons and your established ones, then some would come out that would be right on the cusp of being like, okay, we're part of the crew too. I felt like maybe I'm thinking like, I don't know, The Burning or something like that. Something that was like had a killer and an iconic looking, or like they had like a boogeyman sort of like style. Okay, so obviously you have Scream that came out with Ghostface, and it like was, was amazing.
Yeah. And
when Gangbusters, everybody loved it. So you have, though, I'm going to really draw an almost eerily identical line to Scream and this movie. I don't think this is not anything that nobody's ever talked about. Okay. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, this movie is very much a step sibling of Scream.
Yeah.
There are similar tropes, of course. There's similar like casting, and but I will say what I always appreciated about I Know What You Did Last Summer is that it gave us a pretty good looking boogeyman, a pretty good looking, iconic looking slasher that we'll always remember. We've seen a hook killer with Candyman at this point, but we do get the slicker with the hat, with the fisherman's hat, and then he's able to be hidden. He's able to hide his face. I always thought that always looked really cool. And then I'm like, if you go for it though, if you go for it like Scream went, because Scream went for it. You saw gore, you saw guts, you saw blood, you saw it all. You saw creative kills. I'm like, if that's what you do with I Know What You Did Last Summer, so I would say who gives a shit if it's a carbon copy? I don't care, because you're still gonna give people a good time with an iconic killer who's gonna do great kills, and it's like, okay, it's up the times, but who cares? People remember Michael, people remember Freddy, people remember Jason, Leatherface. Okay, just go for it. But I think, like you mentioned, because they didn't pull the trigger on some things like not wanting blood and shit like that, and being that kind of in between of like, is it a murder mystery or is it an actual slasher movie? It kind of got hurt in that regard. So
I harshly, and I feel like I'm gonna end up being more harsh in this movie than I really want to. Young Lance would be so pissed at me, because I think young Lance would be like, this is a great movie, but this is kind of a movie of our era, you know what I mean? I was like 9 or 10 when this came out, so this is like our era of what was in the theater at the time. But I harshly would call it like a diet Scream, you know what I mean? It's like, Coke Zero is pretty good, so I won't call it Scream Zero, but it's diet Scream, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it doesn't quite have the bite that Scream had a year prior.
I need to, there it is. I'm just gonna erase Diet Coke Scream from my notes there. Yeah, I had that exactly. I wholeheartedly agree, man.
So
I completely agree.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bummer, but like you said, if you go for it, so the original book had like a big twist. Somebody actually did a really good breakdown of like the comparisons of the book and the movie, and they said something in there, and it's my exact experience with watching the movie today in HD for the first time, by the way, which is weird, was their experience of going back and reading the book. And they kind of said, like, I loved it as a kid. Going back as an adult and reading this book, it was aimed more for like a younger teen or something like that. And that's kind of how I felt about the movie, where I was like, this is like such an easy watch. This is why I always had it on my TV. It doesn't totally scare me. You're right, there is an iconic killer, but then watching it again as an adult, I'm like, he's actually only in it for maybe 10 minutes of screen time. And then like the reveal happens and all this kind of stuff. But there is that weird mix of like, you didn't go for it because it's a murder mystery, but it's so bland that we're only looking at one character. Ray was the only guy that you're looking at, because there's another character named Max who they kind of are trying to set up, and then they kill him off instantly. And you're like, oh, well, okay, there's the mystery. So it's either Ray or somebody random, and lo and behold, somebody random kind of. So very bland, very diet feeling. There's really no bite to a lot of the action that's kind of happening in the movie. And that, I think, is why it didn't achieve that iconic status. And it was there. You're right. The killer just has a great look. By the way, the killer's look, the slicker, which I love saying, it's one of those things like you could have easily said fisherman's jacket, and all of the rest of America would have got it, but all the East Coast horror fans were like, it's fucking slicker. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that we got to call it
what it is. Yeah.
But this was actually based on Kevin Williamson's dad was actually a fisherman and had a similar look to him. So that's where the look came, is kind of personal to Kevin Williamson. So that's cool.
I wonder, Lance, if as you know, we've talked about this a lot, and eventually when we get to our Thing episode, when we talk about The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, we'll talk about the making of it and how it came to pass. I wonder, Lance, is Kevin Williamson being the hottest shit on the block allowing them to finally pull the trigger on this movie. Okay, because you said he tried to pitch this first, right? So he's like, you know what I really want? They're like, Kevin, give us another Scream. I'll give you another Scream. I'm gonna give you another Scream. But you know what I really want? I want you to make I Know What You Did Last Summer. And they're like, great, we'll do it. Well, guess what? Who gives a shit about all of our, like, you know, what you and I, our hangups of the movie are? Let's just go back to the basics, the bottom line. You talked about it already. You told me the budget versus the profits.
Yeah.
That's why they did it. They cashed in. The same reason they cashed in on all the slasher movies during the 80s and early 90s. That's why they did it, because hello, everyone was into this. Who is it? Is it them? Is it him? It's a whodunit with teens, and you basically, yeah, you gave us a diet soda of Scream, but people wanted it. They're like, hey, we're gonna give you Scream 2 in a little bit, just a little bit, but take this and check this out, right? So
yeah,
I also wonder, was this like the 90s Brat Pack? Was that what we were watching? You know how you had the Breakfast Club, Brat Pack, but like everyone around them, like, okay, so like they weren't in the Breakfast Club, but you had Rob Lowe, Demi Moore,
yeah,
people of that ilk. So you got these four, plus like you got your Nev and Rose and stuff. I would say more of these four were truly the Brat Pack of the 90s.
After this, because they all were second choice or third choice or eighth choice. Yeah. So originally Reese Witherspoon auditioned, backed out of it, and said, hey, my boy Ryan Phillippe would be great for this. And they cast him. Jennifer Love Hewitt was not in there. Actually, Melissa Joan Hart was actually cast and said, no, it's a Scream ripoff. I don't want to do it. So she backed out. Freddie Prinze Jr. I think he auditioned 9 different times and finally got the answer as to why they weren't going to cast him. And they said, I mean, his dad was famous. He was kind of known in Hollywood, musician, all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, oh, it's just like the son of this guy. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of it. But it was also, he was very young. And they basically told him, like, we need you to be buffer. We need you to be bigger. Like you just don't have the presence that we need for this character. So he went, chopped off his hair himself, I guess, and then like worked out a little bit, auditioned one more time. And then the director, Jim Gillespie, actually wanted him and could stand by him at that point. Like, look, he put in the work. Let's go. And that's our Ray. Sarah Michelle Gellar, I don't know the story about her, if she was a first choice or second choice on this. Because I don't know what role Reese had, so I'm not really sure. I think she just auditioned. I don't think she was cast. But
well, let me just say then, okay, if this was the reason that we eventually got introduced to Jennifer Love Hewitt, thank you so much for whoever, whenever, whatsoever, because Lance, I am telling you right now at this moment, she kicked Kelly Kapowski out of my crushes, kicked her out like This Is Sparta kicked out, and firmly planted herself as, all right, it was like a tie, but it was like Danielle Harris and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I swear, man, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Can't Hardly Wait. Oh my gosh, like I was so in love with this woman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely explain. And but here's the thing, I don't think to like. This is gonna be very, very, very detailed comparison. Check this out. So, Nev Campbell, right? I talked about this during Scream. Nev Campbell does this thing that only she can do, and only she did during Scream, where it's like it's when she's kissing, or she's about to kiss Billy, or she's about to take her shirt off when they're going to do their scene or whatever. She has like a squint. I can't even do it. It just looks like I can't see, but she does it in a way it's very like where she like smiles and like, but is also just watch it. You know which one I'm talking about, y'all.
Okay.
Jennifer Love Hewitt does one that's like almost the same, but her own style. I can't even describe it. She does it, and it's she. Okay, you especially see it when she's kissing Ethan Embry in I Know What You Did Last Summer, but you. I mean, I Can't Hardly Wait, but you definitely see it here when she gets the note for the first time. And she's like, who delivered this? There's no postage or anything. Her eyes kind of they kind of flutter and stuff. I'm just telling you, man, I was hooked from there.
So you mentioned this, and there's another movie I want to review one day. Maybe it's not even a Slashers Paradise movie; it's like a Hulu film. But it made me like look at Final Girls and their eye acting and like what you can do with your eyes. And if you watch this movie, she does this like eye flicker thing. She's teary eyed. She's got emotion. Even when she's happy, she's kind of doing the eye flicker thing. She does so much with her eyes and her acting. And you're right. She's beautiful. She's got beautiful eyes. Like you just kind of get sunken into this look on her. And she is very girl next door. She pulls that off in every role that she's had. And that kind of draws you into, there's a rumor that they kind of said like, part of the contract says you got to do a full nude scene. So shower scene. Yeah. She said, absolutely not. So old school Hollywood rumor. I don't want to like, presses a cold fact, but this is why they kind of put a lot of like tiny tank tops on her and stuff like that. It was like almost like a punishment. Like, well, we're gonna get something out of some sort of sexual innuendos out of you. So,
I mean, look, like it really sucks. And I mean, knowing what we know now and how much honestly we still don't know about all the seedy bullshit that happened behind the scenes and young women trying to make it in Hollywood and all the horror stories that we've heard from that and all that stuff. The reality is in the 80s when you had these slasher films and you had the gratuitous nudity. Yes, maybe some of it can get chalked up to you got perverts on set. Okay, maybe, right? And that's not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying like, okay, maybe. But what I am saying is that they know who is going to watch these movies.
Yeah.
The same way that you would appeal to any of your core audience, right? The same way we hear all this horse shit that's around the country and how you're appearing to your base, right?
Right.
So, I mean, like, unfortunately, they saw profit over any, feelings and art and craft and capabilities or anything like that. They're like, no, sex sells, and we know who's coming to see this movie. So yes, we're gonna do shit like that. We need you to sell this movie for us. And I mean, here I am, living proof. I'm talking to you that I had an insane crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt. And why? Well, she's gorgeous, and she was running around in 1997 when Danny's watching this. It's like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost a selling point, right? Like, oh, it's the movie. Now it's an attraction of the movie within the movie of like, oh, now that's the one movie where she goes nude, or that's the one movie where you see, whatever. So like you understand the selling point of it. You understand who your audience is. But at the same time, you have a director that doesn't want blood because it's too gratuitous. I mean, it's like, what?
Well, because you never know.
None of this makes sense.
You honestly never know if it was the director, because producers get in there, they're like, yeah, I want this part, So it's like,
that's where I think that came from. But it's just like a weird mix of like, you don't want blood, but you want a full frontal of this pretty innocent actress, this younger actress. It's just Party of Five was big, and that's where she was kind of coming from, So
my God, she was so young. I'm like, you're looking at it. Okay, it's like, first of all, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, Sarah Michelle Gellar obviously was brand new. So is Jennifer Love Hewitt, but I'm like, Ryan Phillippe pretty much looks like that throughout his whole career. And Freddie Prinze Jr. too. Okay, wow, what a sexist. No, what I'm saying is like, I think this is still, I think Ryan Phillippe still looks like this, but I don't know. Obviously he's young and thinner and like he's got that high school body, and then he eventually maybe it's because all I have to compare him are on early 90s movies, and then after that I really didn't watch a lot of Ryan Phillippe stuff. So it's like this and Cruel Intentions.
Cruel Intentions. Hello. Sebastian. Anyway, I love that movie. This is my prime movie. You know, we bought these VHSs. Like it was this all the time. It was Cruel Intentions, and then I don't know what year Joyride came out, but that was another comfort movie for me. I always throw on Joyride.
Candy cane. I'm looking for
Black Sheep. All right. Anyway, something that was cool. What?
Recently, we just watched that recently.
Joyride?
She had never seen it, so there's like 4 or 5 of them. Not with any of the actors from the original, but still.
Yeah, Steve Zahn was choice in that. Anyway, something that I did like about the movies of the opening, like we talk about soundtracks and music all the time. First shot is the ocean, so we know we're on a coast of some sort. It's an aerial shot. It's a one-shot aerial shot, and we kind of like swoop around. It's the Typo Negative song, Summer Breeze, and I'm feeling fine. Yeah. Oh, I was like, okay, all right. Little edginess to this. The ocean, got it. We zoom around. We see this guy sitting on the cliff. I appreciate the art here. You know what I mean? Like, I got some music that I appreciate. We're at the ocean. Everything's blue. I'm just digging the art. And Danny's laughing at me. Why are you laughing at me, Danny?
Because, man, I'm watching this movie and it's starting up and the music is playing and I'm like, oh, this is Lance's wet dream, man. Because it's moody and it's got the it's got the rock and all the stuff. And I'm like, hell yeah. I could appreciate it now, but I'm like, I bet high school Lance was all over this shit.
100%.
Yeah, man.
I think that's why it held in my heart so well. I was like, okay, there's a little bit of an edge to this, but like the movie takes place in a really small town and like it looks small town throughout. We've talked about this in all of our podcasts. Like small towns really can sell a horror film for you. And that's what it is. But this particular shot was actually shot in California. Everything else was in North Carolina, actually. But this shot is very home to us. It's like on Malibu. You know what I mean? It's the swervy roads and the hills and all that.
Honestly, you take out the Typo Negative and you put Cry Little Sister, and we have Lost Boys all over again. So don't you dare. I'm giving you your flowers, man. But let me tell you something, okay? I want to live in that beach town rock show high school night. That looks so much fun. You know, they start off with this pageant and they're like, hey, we're too cool to sit in the crowd for this pageant. We're too cool for that. But we're not too cool for my girlfriend to actually be in the pageant. You know what I mean? So I'm like,
yeah. As long as she's winning, yeah, we're fine.
yeah. And he's like, yeah, let's go, babe. I'm like, okay, settle down, Ryan Phillippe. You're trying to make me believe that you are a tough guy throughout this whole thing, and you're getting dangerously close for me to like not believe a goddamn word you say. But yeah, that part was just hilarious to me. They're like, oh man, we're not gonna be down there with the weirdos because of this stupid pageant. So why are you guys here? Oh, my girlfriend's in it.
No, he doesn't just say like, yeah, get him, babe, like excited. He's got to be like the cool guy. So he's got like the really wet lips. And he's like, go get him, babe. And he does the blue steel and kind of leaves the lips open. He's like, man, they eat this shit up, right? Like,
well, that's the shit he was doing the whole time of his whole career. Like, what's that iconic thing where he's got the phone and Cruel Intentions, right? And he's like, and he's like throwing out the lips. So few of us can do it like really well, Lance. I just need you to know that it's a curse to have such debonair good looks, as you know.
Yeah, of course. No, but okay, so we introduced the cast. That's great. But I thought you were actually going to go to the campfire that they're having. It is 4th of July night. It's
what would be before? We got to actually right there. Okay, first of all, yes, it's a 4th of July night. Hey, welcome, motherfuckers. It's 4th of July in real time, right? So technically, you could bleep that out if you want to. Technically, right? I don't know. I was always you think of summer movies, right? You think of your summer movies. You got Friday 13, Jaws, right? Your summer horror movies, rather. And it's like if it centers around a camp, I never thought of this one being a summer movie, but holy moly, it's in the dang title. I Know What You Did Last Summer, but I was like, it just never resonated. I'm like, summer horror movies, the one that has freaking summer in it, you never remember. But there it was. It like right in my face. Before you get to that scene about them, they're like, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go to Dawson's Cove. I'm like, not Dawson's Creek. And they go and they have their little campfire and stuff. I'm like, oh, that was everything for me with the shipwreck, boat and everything like that. But how about this? That is me in a nutshell. I want that, but I also want the party that they're having at this beach, like restaurants, beachside restaurant, right? Where what's his name? Works freaking what's his name from not from Roseanne,
Johnny
from
Galecki.
Johnny Galecki. First of all, you want to talk about people that are not cast correctly? Stop. I am not afraid, nor will I ever be afraid of tough guy Johnny Galecki. Sorry. It has nothing to do with anything, but just like all I see is Russ Griswold. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
like you're not tough.
You're just setting me up right now. Like you just gave me like all the alley oops. So number one, he is kind of notorious for being an asshole. But you're right. When I first saw this, like that's David. That's David from Roseanne. He's too nice. He can't say motherfucker. What is he doing? So that's number one. Number two, we'll get to it later. There's actually there's a story. Jennifer Love Hewitt and Johnny Galecki were actually neighbors when he was doing Christmas Vacation. So there is a friendship connection there. And there's something that comes down later that I have to share. So I got to put a pin in that one.
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say dating and I was going to jump out of my socks. Because then nothing makes sense. Okay, look, sorry. Look, here's the point. I'm not bashing Johnny Galecki. No way. There is an entire fandom of Big Bang Theory, and that's great, right? But tough dude who's not a rich kid, not for me. Nah. I don't know. Maybe his manager made a deal with somebody, or like we want to get him out of the nerdy stuff because he plays like a rocker grunger on Roseanne, right? Because he's Darlene's boyfriend.
Yeah, like
ish,
punk,
right?
Alternative for the 90s, but very like quiet, kind of came out of a bad family. So he's the quiet one,
At one point, I am skipping it a little bit, but at one point he cruises up to the scene of the crime in his truck, and he's getting swallowed by this truck. It almost looks like when you were a little kid and you went and you drove your dad's truck when you weren't supposed to, like you backed it out of the driveway. That's what it looked like. I'm like, who's in there? Oh, it's Johnny Galecki. I'm like, put him on an Apple box, people. Come on.
Big fan of your work, John. I just want to say.
Big fan. Go forever. Big fan.
It did. The Max character was not quite right. It was kind of cool to see him in a movie at that time because watch him in Roseanne, watch him in Christmas Vacation. I was like, oh, cool, there he is. Like he's older, and like he's doing movies, but he just doesn't quite work. And so anyway, the character of Max has like a little crush on Julie, Jennifer Love Hewitt. And so there's like a little dynamic there, causes some friction. But yeah, they were best friends, or not best friends, but they were very good friends as children actors growing up. So
yeah, so he like totally hits on her, which is like, okay, like I'm man enough to say that I have been previously in a situation, especially in high school, where like I not misread, but like girls can be friends with guys, and some guys are like, yes, we're friends, but I also am attracted to whatever the kid, the goddamn thing I'm talking about. So he hits on her, right? And it's like you're from the foursome that you have there between and Jennifer Love and Ryan Phillippe and Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar. Out of all of them, you think Julie is going to be the sweetheart, and she is for the beginning, but she is definitely the main character, right? Okay.
Yeah.
She has to let him down in a way. She's like, I'm not going to be a bitch about it, but but also like you see a little tinge of her. I'm not cruel, but I'm also not a snob, right? Because like for all you know, he's like, we've been friends this for forever. You can't leave without a bon voyage or a farewell. And she's just kind of like, no, I'm not into it. Because like, yes, he is asking her for, you know, to go out. It's just like it's a difficult situation. One that I was like, maybe you leave it out because I don't know. I don't know. It kind of like put a little bit of like a chink in the sweet, innocent, morally. I don't know. It just like it solidified that she was definitely like, yes, I'm sweet, but I'm not with you sort of deal, even though she was with Ray. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah. Trying to calculate all this, but I think it just, the whole point of it again was to try to sell you on the who done it. So it adds some mystique to another character to get you off of Ray, who is actually Julie's boyfriend. And and then Ray kind of comes over and kind of is like, hey, Max, how you doing? You know, like, get the fuck out of here kind of a thing. But he's a nice guy, but there's kind of like an edge to him where he's like, I could totally be a dick and beat your ass, but hey, why don't you fuck off? You know, like,
yeah,
there's
so
a
like
weird dynamic, you know.
Maybe it's easier, maybe not easier, like because like people don't have to give you a reason that they don't want to go out with you. Like that's not what I'm trying to say here. But like maybe it's easier for us to be like, maybe Max is just a little bit of a weird presence and kind of like, yeah, he's coming off as like a loose cannon. So yes, I get it. He's just there so to raise doubt of being like this person who's got a motive.
He is also the sell on the small town, because there's an interesting dynamic that happens here where it's like big dreams at the end of your senior year. We're all going to get out of this small town dump, you know what I mean? And Max is the only one like, I know I'm staying, you know what I mean? Like he's got that vibe of like, I'm a local, I'm staying here. I'm not going to college. I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm going to be a fisherman like everybody else. And that's it. But everybody else, these cool kids have these high hopes and dreams, and he kind of tries to knock them down a peg, you know what I mean? But I think he kind of sells the small town. Yeah. But this leads to the fireplace, or the fireplace, the campfire on the beach. And I just kind of want to get to that because there is this odd overlay of the man with the hook, and they kind of tell the old urban legend of the hook. It's called the hook. You know, and what's wrong, Danny?
No, it really happened. You don't know. Jesus, man. Sorry. Anyway,
yeah.
It's really hard to hear the story. It's really hard to hear the story with the constantly out of breath, constantly confused Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character of Ray. He's just like, I'm like, you could take a breath. It's okay. Like, it's okay, Ray, you know? But
he's always so concerned. Yeah. So
he's so concerned.
He's always concerned. Yeah. Barry is kind of telling the story of the hook, and it's then they kind of start arguing, which is kind of how the urban legend always goes. It's like, was it a mental patient or whatever? But the story about the boyfriend and the girlfriend in the car in the woods, the boyfriend either checks out a sound or goes to take a piss, and the girlfriend's in the car for a little while. It gets longer and longer. She hears a drip 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 on top of the car, gets out of the car, sees her boyfriend hanging from a tree, and he's like on top of the car bleeding out. And then she looks in the car door handle, has a hook in it, and it's the escaped mental patient, blah blah blah. So they kind of argue over the story, but that is where there's this weird kind of like overlay of the original story with this slasher thing, and they put the hook character in there. That's where this all kind of comes from.
The way I've always heard it is that he is hanging and his feet are dangling on the car, and it's the only thing that like is kind of keeping him alive. And then, you know, she drives off in the car and he, you know, hangs. That's the way I've always heard it.
But where's the hook come from? When does she notice the hook?
She gets back to her house.
Right. So there are different versions of the story. That's what, and they're kind of arguing about that in this scene. Yeah. But I just kind of want to talk about that particular point because there is an overlay of the urban legend. to the point where I watched this movie so many times. When Urban Legends came out, I literally thought it was a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer. I was like, oh, there it is. There's the sequel. Anyway.
No, I mean, you're right, because it's like all urban legends and all like American folklore and retelling of things, something like that. They always kind of take the personality of the area that they're being told in, right? So like whether you're hearing it on the East Coast, West Coast, or in the South, you'll hear different, versions of it. So I think that was kind of nice that they incorporated. But by the way, just the way that these characters talk to each other, they all are using like elevated vocabulary the entire time, and it's like it's definitely Kevin Williamson writing, right? Like, because even in Scream, I always draw the comparison. I'm like, it was supposed to, he was trying to do something new when Sydney's diss to Ghostface, when he tells her something about her mom and she gets all like worked up, she says, "Fuck you, you cretin." It's like in my like most angry moment, that's not the word that's going to come to my mind, right? And she's so they're just like talking to each other in that sort of elevated vocabulary way that I'm like, high school kids don't talk this way. But maybe they do now, but they sure as hell were not back then. I'm just gonna tell you.
I feel like there was a little more poetry to the 90s kids. I really do feel that way.
Okay.
Yeah, the alternative grunge era, the poetry. I think it might have worked. Not for us. I think we were the dumb generation, unfortunately.
Oh,
we
that's
did not
fine.
have a good vocabulary, but
well, let me also tell you that here's another thing. I like to watch these movies when I watch them for the show, on with subtitles, right? And there was this funny little not funny, because like the idea of it is kind of shitty, but obviously the Barry character played by Ryan Phillippe is drinking. He's drinking a lot, and he wants to drive. Nobody drives my car but me. Like, have you ever, I went to too many college parties and bullshit where I heard that sort of crap. But in the subtitles, they'll also tell you if like if it's inaudible and all you could hear is music, it'll tell you like, hey, this song is playing. The song that they put, it was like blaring on car radio, is the song DUI as they're driving. And I'm like, that's funny. Anyway,
interesting choice.
I was just saying, I found that but like things that they say to each other, like it doesn't matter. This whole story about the urban legend of the hook is really a phallic symbol, and the story is a reason to ward off young girls for premarital sex. It's just like, we didn't get all that shit back then. We didn't get it. We didn't know. So it went over our head. We were just taking it at face value as that these are just scary, stories.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, we see the car wreck, all that. When I watch this scene, so the car accident happens, they hit something, and Julie, they all get out of the car, check out, Barry's all pissed off. Julie goes and finds the bloody boot, and all I can ever think about is the Scary Movie version of this. Oh my God, I found a boot. Every time I watch this movie now, I just start dying laughing thinking about that. And that movie ruined this one for me.
I don't care, man. That shit is hilarious. I was cracking up when I saw this movie because yes, I know they have more fun with it when whoever gets out of the sunroof in Scary Movie, I think it's Anna Faris, right? she keeps on getting hit with stuff. But what made me laugh was Barry being outside of the car, just whoa! I'm like, okay. And then when they hit the killer that's going to be the killer, they hit him and he fucking and he takes, he gets hit too, and he's just kind of flailing. I'm dying, man. I'm laughing so much because I'm like, that's what you get. By the way, he should have been flung out of that sunroof at any point of contact.
Exactly. He either would have smashed his skull with a body hitting him at that speed, or he would have been flown out of the car himself. So I kind of thought about that too, the realistic part of that.
Yeah.
kind of did hit. But yeah, finding the bloody boot, I always think now of Scary Movie, unfortunately, and it's the scene is actually ruined for me, which
Well,
whatever.
yeah,
But
let's just, it is, it's already making us believe things that aren't like feasible, like Max being a tough dude, right? And not
yeah,
fitting in his truck. That's already unbelievable, right? But anyway, here's the point. Like,
not
okay,
fitting in
right?
his truck.
Some people don't, you don't need to be driving big trucks. And that's not that
Okay,
and that's the thing, Lance. The thing is that his truck wasn't even that big. It's just a regular Chevy, but he was engulfed by the size of the cab. Okay, here's the point. The point is that we're gonna fast forward. Obviously, say they kill, they hit the guy drunk driving. We don't want to ruin our lives. Or do you want to ruin your life? I'm going to go play for the Cowboys. That's Ryan Phillippe saying. And I'm like, no, you're not. Ray's like, hey, I'm going to college. Well, you could, right?
he could.
Everyone's got college plans, and they're like, no matter what, they go through the progression of what they've done. They're like, Barry was the one drinking. So Ray, you were the one driving. You're not drunk. They're never going to believe I wasn't drinking. It's just like, it's a lot of like all these decisions right in the moment to finally decide, you know what we need to do? If we're going to go on with our lives, let's just dump the fucking body. Problem solved, right, Lance?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Dump the
That's how we
body.
deal with our issues. Yep. dump the body. Oh my god.
So I mean, they dump it. They get rid of it so that they could go on with their lives, and we're gonna see a time jump in this movie.
Yeah, a whole year, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So we jump forward a year. Everyone has now dispersed. Julie's in college. She's not doing too well. She was obviously a very good student in high school, no longer in college. And then she gets the note, the very famous. I know what you did last summer, right? So she goes home. She sees her mom. What?
This note?
Okay, I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Look at this. Okay, I know what I ate last summer, right? I worked on that for like a hot minute, maybe, right? This note is presumably coming from someone who was there or saw or knows. It is written in the best comic book font, perfectly written, that I've ever seen in my life. Even the envelope was addressed and it looked amazing. And I'm just like, is any of that necessary? Because every time that you see this note from the killer, if he's writing it on a paper or he's writing it on a foggy mirror, it looks perfect. Perfect. And I'm just like, who knew Fisherman had such great handwriting? I didn't. You're out there with the hooks and the rods and stuff, and like maybe you get the calluses, but he had perfect handwriting, and it looked like a Sharpie, because it was thick. He probably had like 28 point on
That's pretty good.
Photoshop.
I wonder if there's an Adobe Photoshop. I know what you did last summer, or Fisherman's Hook or something like that. That would be great. I'm
sure there is.
Download that. Yeah, there's gotta be. Anyway, she is home. She gets this note. It's funny because you do see the parents of 2 or 3 of the characters, and they just have like, they're just like auxiliary characters, just like no personalities almost. You know what I mean?
It's like NPCs.
Yeah, non-playable characters. So she gets her note. I know you did last summer. We get the flickering eyes, those beautiful brown eyes. Anyway, and that's kind of where the story takes place, so she goes and finds her friends. Helen, I think, is first. That was like her best friend. Actually, she goes to find her sister.
Oh, yes,
Elsa.
she finds Elsa, Bridget Wilson.
Yes.
Bridget. No, Brigitte is the other one. But yes, Helen is, I'm going to New York. I'm going to save the world and be an amazing, because in her pageant question, she said that the way she's going to serve or contribute to the beauty or whatever of the world is to go to New York and become an actress. And be a serious actor, and through art she will help. And did she do that, Lance?
No, sure did not work out. She is actually working at Shivers, is what the place is called. Shivers. That's actually their last name. It's the family retail store of the town, basically. Her sister's like the manager or owner of it.
So if Shivers sold like their own firewood, could they say it's Shiver Me Timbers?
Good one, Danny.
No. If in the department store they sold Timberlands, would they say have some Shiver Me Timberlands?
2.
If they went for Minnesota, the basketball team, would they say Shiver Me Timberwolves? I'm done. I'm out.
There's 3. Roll of 3. Thank you, Danny. We got our 3 jokes out of the Shivers. Thank you. Anyway, she did not make it in New York. She is back. Small town girl again, working for the family business. She can tell she's a little embarrassed by it, so her and Julie kind of hook up. Then we go back to Barry, who has just turned his back. Barry's a rich boy, which I don't think we've established in this episode. He's kind of the rich boy of the town, so he's like well off, taken care of, doesn't need to worry about a thing. Doesn't want anything to do with Helen or Julie. He is completely He has completely turned his back, doesn't give a shit about them. But we now know that somebody is, messing with at least 3 of the main characters so far.
Yeah, because look, it's funny because they all had plans. All of them did. They were all going to go to college. I mean, they were at least top to bottom all had specific plans. So I'm like, it's almost as if killing someone and dumping their body and promising never to talk about it again didn't make you live out your post-high school dreams. You know what I'm saying? However, that's not actually true for all of them, because the one that was most adamant about covering everything up, Barry, the rich kid, was the one who actually followed through the most with what he said he was going to do. This just because of the way Max yells at him later after Barry thinks it's Max who's been threatening or sending the love letters or whatever the case may be. So when he threatens Max is like, I'll get you your I'll get you college quarterback ass. So he is apparently doing it. He's apparently playing quarterback in college. So he's the only one actually that followed through with it. But how funny is that? Because that just, I don't know, that's maybe like maybe it's a personality trait or something like that. He was the one that was like, no, we're going to do this. And he's almost like choking Julie when he's making her like, own up to the pact. And it's like, that's like this alpha, horrible machismo sort of thing. But he's the only one that went through and followed through with any of his post-high school plans.
That's right. That's why he's like working out hard in the hometown. So I mean, he's the one that is automatically like, somebody's just messing with us. Don't even worry about it, kind of thing. Like, please get off my porch, get off my lawn. But it does bring the group back together. They go and see Ray, and Ray
definitely didn't leave. He definitely
did not. It's like Ray knew he wasn't going to leave. I think of the 4, like it was kind of like, again, that hometown, like there's just guys that don't make it out of there. There's girls obviously that don't make it out of there, but
I think it just ate Ray. It's just really, Lance, I think it ate him up the most. You could tell like he was wrestling with it a lot. I think if you look at all 4 of them separately, when they're deciding to dump the body, Ray can see his life it's already changing right there, and it's already over. So like, I think, because like he almost goes back on the things he was agreeing to do. Like he agrees to dump the body essentially, but then he's trying to salvage in real time. I think they all are, but for Ray, I think it hurts the most because he was latching onto them. They were all 3, besides like the 3 that we're talking about, were all set financially, family wise. Ray doesn't have that. So he's like, oh, this shit's over. The ride's over, essentially. And he knew it. You could tell he knows it right when they are over the body trying to decide what they're going to do.
Yeah. And then when they're all coming back together a year later, he's instantly like, move out of the way. Julie, hi, like highlight of my life. You're back. He's instantly like hard eyes. You know what I mean? So you can see right away he's got a motivation for at least getting back with Julie. He doesn't really care about anything else, honestly. He's like, oh, okay. Like, cool, the killer's back, whatever. Julie, how are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, hey man, wouldn't shit, I know I'd be like, oh my gosh, I was with Jennifer Love Hewitt and it wasn't a dream for 2 seconds. By the way, this is me in high school, not me right now. I love my wife. Thank you very much. Yeah, he was like, this, you were the best part of my life at up to this point. And but dude, holy moly. I'm just gonna say, I have to say, this is the one line I took it. Well, yes, okay. Be convictive. Speak with conviction, Danny. Okay. The one line I took away from this movie that I was like, huh, if she said that to me, I would just jump over the boat and drown myself. They're reconnecting. It's this moment. And it is, you already know what I'm going to say. It is Julie and Ray. And they're just like, he's like, so how's school? And she's like, so you became a fisherman. Yeah. And he's like, hey, look, I know you blame me for what happened that night because he was driving. She's like, I don't blame you. I hold myself accountable for my own actions, but I don't blame you for what happened. But I don't want to know you. Boom, takes off. Okay, that's it. Actually, that's all I needed. Just go ahead and tell my cat or whatever that feed my cat while I'm gone. I'm jumping into the water. Holy shit! Someone telling you, hey, I know this is all great and all, but I don't want to know you. Fuck! Yeah. Damn it!
Well, if you needed a period on the end of the relationship, I think that was it.
Yeah, I'll say.
So all of this kind of leads back to Max. Again, we're kind of supposed to be playing the game of who done it, who is the possible coming of a killer kind of a thing. We haven't had a kill yet, but there's some sort of threat. Somebody saw what's happening. And we have an interaction with Max, Johnny Galecki again. But it leads to a scene of, spoiler, his death. This scene was actually shot after the movie was done because they said, like, we don't have enough kills.
I could tell.
Yeah, right. Like it's definitely
it's the best kill, and I mean it's kind of the best kill, but it's like the most descriptive, or not descriptive. It's the most like gratuitous in what it shows.
Yeah, we have the introduction of the hook. He is a fisherman. He's gutting fish, and that's kind of his job, sort of a thing. He's kind of pissed off after the group interaction. Leaves the hook on a huge ice block, and it was kind of, you're right, it is kind of the scariest probably death of the whole thing, and the goriest, I guess, because we got kind of that steam kind of coming off the ice and everything, so there is a little bit of a mystery. We see the man in the slicker kind of come up, he grabs the hook, and just a nice little uppercut, an upper hook right to the chin. Right about here. I'm going to show you right there.
For all you Johnny audio Galecki listeners, Lance has pulled his own fisherman's hook out of his storage. And so the hook goes right under the chin. And let me tell you something, folks. It's like you think of a few ways. So like when someone's wielding a hook, right? When you look at Candyman, when you look at the fisherman, you're thinking like, okay, what are some ways that if I got it, like if somebody hooked me, it would hurt the most. I think that's one, right under the chin, because it's like not only are you gonna have a blade penetrate your head, but it won't kill you. It's gonna hurt, and then you're gonna be dragged around by your jaw, and then eventually you'll die. Right? I think of that, and I think of like Candyman, the gutting. Right? It goes up into the stomach, and then right.
Yeah.
So I think that kill of Max is it's so good. It hurts. How about that? It hurts.
Yeah.
Watching it.
Yeah. And to end Max's like story basically in this, Julie is driving later in the movie. I'm skipping way ahead, but and she starts to hear a scratching sound in the trunk. So she actually is like, what the hell? She pulls over and goes to the back and sees Max is covered in crabs and he's obviously dead. His mouth is like hanging wide open. I'm going to pull the pin out. This is the interesting fact about this. Remember what I said about Jennifer Love Hewitt and Johnny Galecki being friends? Apparently, production had to be shut down because of her reaction to seeing Johnny Galecki. This is a body double. They cast a version of him. He was not a part of this scene, but it disturbed her so deeply that they had to halt production, call Johnny Galecki and have him on the phone with her to calm her down, saying, I'm totally fine. I'm right here. I'm good. That's not me. Like that's how bad she took seeing this version of her real friend in life, covered in crabs and slain in the back of a trunk. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Like, oh.
All right. Hold on. Yes, I am wholeheartedly going to say that her reaction is hers, and I am not downplaying that. But I saw that body double, and that thing did not look great. You know, I can't. Technology has gotten better, makeup effects have gotten better, but that looks like a mannequin. It was hard for me to be like, oh, that's Max. So maybe maybe it just it's hard to shoot things, back then and stuff like that. I mean, this is already it's still film at this point, right?
97,
yeah. But I get it, right? Even if she's like, oh, I know I'm gonna see Max. Maybe she read that and she was like, oh my god, I'm so taken back by it. But
it's what we see is a very quick shot too, and the head is kind of like pulled back, and you can only see like from the chin, like an upward angle from the chin. So we don't see much of it, but yeah, it does kind of look like a dummy. But that is a fact of the movie that she was so distraught that she had a whole production and talk to the actual actor that it was meant to be.
It's very sweet. I'll tell you that it is very sweet to hear that. I like that fact. I will tell you though, watching these movies, I'm like, man, I can't wait for college. When I say watching these movies, I'm talking about this one, and Scream 2, not the getting killed on campus part of Scream 2, but the fact that people are just like, I've talked to you about this when we did Scream 2, is like, they're laying around on the lawns and I was like, God, Lee, when I went to college, I mean, we didn't have lawns like that. I mean, it's Lubbock, so it was kind of like it was kind of dirt and sparse flat lands. But I'm like, I thought there'd be a lot more alternative rock than this.
A little more hacky sack, a lot more frisbees, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot more of that stuff, and less Chingy.
Chingy?
Yeah, Chingy the rapper.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of that in my college.
Oh boy.
But that is so cool though. Thank you so much for that fact, Lance. I had no idea that she had that reaction. But did you also notice throughout the movie that they keep dropping these like odd relationships with fathers being estranged? There was an overall tone of Ray not knowing his father, of Julie's father dying, or like, because her mom says your father would be rolling over in his grave, and then you see the relationship between Helen and her father later, and then what is the main reason the first thing that Ryan Phillippe or Barry says when they hit the car, my father's gonna kill me. So all of them kind of like drop these little father things out, or these little tidbits out throughout the movie, and then eventually here comes the biggest spoiler of them all: the killer ends up being the father of somebody. But I mean, we'll get into that in just a little bit. But isn't that kind of, I never picked that up until I just saw it recently. I'm like, everybody has a not great relationship with their father. and they're dropping these father tidbits all throughout. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still didn't catch that in this last one. Now that you're mentioning, I'm like, yeah, actually, it seemed like there was a point to be made there, and
Yeah,
maybe that's what it was.
maybe that's what they were trying to do, is just just hint. It's like it's the father of some. It's gonna be a father.
Yeah, maybe it
Or-
was a foreshadowing kind of a thing.
Mhm.
I just one more interesting fact, the scene after she discovers Max, she brings back Barry and Helen to the car, like, I see him, he's dead. You open the car, it's completely gone. Not a crab in sight, the body's gone, everything's gone. So now, oh, she must be hallucinating, kind of thing. Barry's like, whatever, you're an idiot. But there's an odd scene where, and Danny reenacted this for the promo, which is the "What are you waiting for?" It's like become the iconic thing. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? And she spins, she does a spin. There's like an aerial shot. The fun fact about this scene was that a kid won a contest to direct a scene in the film, and this was the scene. So people thought that's an odd choice, but it's an iconic one for some
Get
reason.
the
Yeah.
fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
I don't know the kid's name. I haven't been able to find it, but yeah, he won a contest, and this is the scene that he was allowed to direct, and it was placed in the film. And I guess everyone on production was like, "What the fuck are we doing?" You know, and even Jennifer Love was like, "What?" And now looking
What
back at it, they're like, "Well, it worked."
what contest? First of
I
all,
know.
is that the grand prize is to direct a scene? What kid did they pick? And two, what contest are they? I'm just thinking about that stupid contest that they did for Halloween Resurrection. If you were the best Halloween fan or whatever the hell, that you'll be in the movie, and then it was like a small little. Maybe they learned their lesson, right? That's what it ended up being.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know, but it was just
What
like
are
a
you
funny.
waiting for, huh?
Does the full? She does the arm out and does a spin. It's like it was very odd. Everyone says it's very odd, but became iconic. So there we
That
go.
kid was
Thank
like,
you,
"All
kid.
right, he's like, I need a crane shot, and I need you to do a little
You know?
spinneroonie. It's gonna be great. It's
Can
gonna be
you
great."
can you imagine the balls on that kid? Like, yeah, you need a crane and aerial here. Let's see. We're gonna need at least 10 cuts of this.
No, this kid going into college, if he's going to continue his film career, he already has something on his resume. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, really, you directed something? He's like, yeah, bitch, look it up.
Yeah. Number one box office hit in October.
Jesus. All right. Yeah, it is a silly thing, but I have to say, Lance, when you get all of them together, some people do say between Barry and Ray and Helen and Julie that this is the real Mystery Inc.
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody says that. What I did see though,
That-
didn't you? Okay, again, ha 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 ha. Here comes a new Scream comparison when Julie and Helen go talk to Missy, because
yeah.
just so
I
y'all
haven't
know,
talked
they
about
dumped
Missy.
they dumped the body in the water, and then a body is found in the water later. That's all over the news, and Julie knows who because it makes the news, and they are talking about the body as of this person called David Egan. So they're like, that's who we killed, David Egan. We threw him in the water. They discovered him in the water, right? It's David Egan. So they're like, hey, does he have any family that we could talk to? Because they're trying to figure out who's messing with us, right? They're like, it has to be a family member. So they go talk to, or they track down Missy, played by Anne Heche. And she was probably the inspiration for the neighbors of the Hewitts in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. You knew I was going to do that. You knew it. Get it?
I just crossed it off my list. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, so she goes and meets and talks to Missy. But the thing is, when they go do this like sleuth detective Velma and Daphne, as soon as I saw it, and like the way Sarah Michelle Gellar was acting and the way Jennifer Love Hewitt was acting in the moment, I'm like, huh, it's Sydney and Tatum. Another scratch off. Yep. Because
Yeah.
especially the moment where Julie goes up to the front door, knocks on it, and she's like, "No, I'm gonna go around the back," right? And Helen, Sarah Michelle Gellar, does this weird like, oh okay.
Yep.
And that immediately reminded me of Rose McGowan be like, I just knew he was too perfect. When she kind of does
Just
that little thing.
the doting sidekick. Yep. I thought
Yep.
the exact same thing in the exact same scene. It's on the porch before they go around the side. I was like, there's Tatum. That's crazy.
Yep.
It's funny that we both are synced up on that. Totally.
But like, okay, right? Some things, hey, I have a style, you have a style. Some things are just gonna be, right? And one of the things that is that he had a home run with Sydney and Tatum and that whole gang. I mean, it was so much of a diet scream, Lance, that I think, I cannot be sure, but I think that Ryan Phillippe is wearing Stu's sweater. Are you kidding? I'm beating him out to the punch, folks.
I was gonna bring it up earlier, and I just kind of missed my opportunity. I'm so pissed about it. But yeah, he's absolutely wearing Stu's sweater.
He's wearing Stu's sweater.
He's even kind of wet when he's wearing the sweater too. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like Stu sweating and spitting all over himself.
And what does Stu say at the end when he gets on the phone with Sydney and she says that she called the cops? My dad's gonna be so mad at me. He says my mom and dad, but anyway, you get the point. Wow. So, hey, this is almost not even diet scream. This is almost just scream adjacent.
It's diet scream. It's all. I mean, what's her name? Had it right anyway. It's just a rip off of Scream, but again, this was written beforehand, so obviously you're right. Williamson had a style, and this was it, at least for this time. I just, I wanted this to be an iconic horror film. I wanted this to be the new iconic slasher. I wanted it to join the ranks of everyone, but like I realized watching it, I couldn't put together what the actual story was, and the Anne Heche character of Missy and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre look to everything, the backwoods on her own, but putting the story together, I was like, oh, they didn't kill the Egan kid. Like, there's this whole weird clash story, and I was like, so the book is known for a big twist at the end, which I'm not going to ruin. Go read it. It's different than the movie, but that's the twist of the movie. And it's such a like insert of like, did you get it? And it's literally Julie, like, while all her friends are basically getting killed off, she's like running to computers to find out information. She's running to Missy's house to find out more information. She's like, we didn't kill Egan. Like, it was like, all these little things you've got to catch in the middle of the action to even understand what the twist was. And the fact that they didn't actually kill anybody, they hit
the killer, the original killer. So it almost absolves them from their act of what they did in a way. I guess if you by accident run over someone who has just committed a murder, does that make it less of a heinous act? First of all, accidentally hitting somebody in inevitably contributing to their death by an accident is considered still manslaughter, right?
Manslaughter.
But at this point, it's like, if you did it to someone who is a murderer, does that make it better? I don't know. I don't think so. But it doesn't matter what I think at this point. The point is that the reality, folks, is that this is the big twist that Lance is talking about. Different from the book, but this is the big twist in the movie. They have been concentrating on David Egan being the person that they hit. You see David Egan in the beginning. The very first person you see in the movie is someone who is sitting on the edge of the cliff with an "I love you" keychain. And he's obviously either depressed or drunk or both. It doesn't matter. But the outfit he's wearing, which is just like the overalls, or like, sorry, the waiters, right? The what fishermen wear. It's like tall overalls, so
Yeah,
but they're made of like that. It's not a full slicker, but whatever.
Same material. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see the body of the person, that's why they threw blood all over the face, because you're like, oh shit, it's the guy that we just saw in the beginning. And then when you see the picture of David Egan later in the yearbook, you're like, yeah, that's the guy that we saw in the beginning of the movie. And then they're like, what? What David did not, because there at one point Julie sees a tattoo on the body, on the arm of the body, and it says Josie. What is it?
Susie. Yeah.
And then they dump the body in, right? And she's like, look, she's basically confronting Missy and telling her, look, it's the truth. We killed your brother. We're the ones that killed him. And she's like, no, he killed himself. Well, technically he didn't. He was killed, but it wasn't by them. And she's like, no, I saw his tattoo of Susie on his arm. She's like, my brother did not have a tattoo, right? And she's like, get out of my house. And she's like, holy shit, it's not him. And then she does her research. Shout out, Lance. Thank you for bringing up the research part, because shout out to old school browser history.
Yeah.
The way she was like searching things, and it even told you there, this is window 3 of 5 or whatever. I was like, yes, count the windows. But yes, she finds out that it is not, in fact, David Egan. David Egan was killed, but not by them. He was the boyfriend of Susie, whose father is the fisherman. So yeah, go ahead.
His name is Ben Willis.
Ben Willis.
So David and Susie were in a car crash. Susie died. David took the blame. He was going to commit suicide. That's the idea, right? He was going to commit suicide off the cliffs. Ben Willis is pissed, so he goes to kill David. I'm acting confused because it is very confusing, and it is inserted within 2 minutes of the film to explain all of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what? So Ben was killing David at the time that our group of teenagers was driving through the cliffs and hit Ben, not David. Ben just killed David. The kids hit Ben after killing David. So they hit the killer and tried to dump the body of the killer. The killer survived being dumped into the water. The killer got out of the water. They still discovered a body in the water because that was David's body. Jesus Christ, could this be any more confusing?
But let me ask you this. If you are if you are Ben, the fisherman, the killer, you just killed David, and then you got hit by a car. First of all, does that not tell you that you're on the wrong path? Okay, 1. 2, you survive. Dude, just shut up at this point. Just keep it to yourself, because you committed murder, but now you're like, nah, I'm going to kill you all because you almost killed me. It separates the entire motive of why he became a killer in the first place. Now he's just killing them and just messing with them because they hit him and that's it. Or is he doing it because he has that overall feel of anybody who kills somebody or in a car accident? Maybe that's what it is. That would hit him close to home because of Susie. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I wasn't going to bring up this fact either, but Lois Duncan, the actual writer of the book, obviously didn't like that it was a slasher flick. She even said like, oh, like, I'm so excited to see my characters on film. Who is this fisherman with a hook decapitating my characters? Not into it. Number 2. Can you imagine, like, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean?
It was like Stephen King when he saw The Shining. He was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. To bring it down a notch, though, her daughter had just been killed right before this movie came out or something. So it really hit home for her in that tone. So you just kind of brought that up. Kind of a sad fact about it, but
oh my gosh.
but the movie story, the twist to this was so bizarre because I think as an adult I finally get it, but I think as a kid I was like, oh, whatever, he's a killer. I don't know. Like it is so much information so fast that you're like, okay, I guess.
I guess also what I'll actually push back a little bit. I think they had something with the look of the fisherman. I think they
Yeah.
do. I really do. I think that's why they kind of greenlit the sequel, and we will talk about the sequel because there's an official sequel that pretty much gets most of the cast that survived into the sequel. But I think they had something with the look of the fisherman, and people did latch onto it. And what this movie does is that it really doesn't. It yes and no, right? Because it follows more of the Scream formula than it does a Michael Myers or a Jason formula. Because Michael Myers will never take off his mask and be like, "Yes, it was me all along, and I'm here to teach you a lesson." So we have, we have that moment where it's like, oh, honestly, it's just the way he gets around town without being noticed. It's like, yeah, the thing is, like, Michael could be dropped into anywhere in the country, and as long as it's Halloween, he's going to be all right, right? Jason the same way. Freddy does what he's like. If this fisherman is just in the middle of Arizona, everyone's going to be like, what the hell is he doing here?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he's like, I will kill you, and I will get away with it, and I will blend into the crowd. However, it better be in a fishing town. So I will never forget what you did last summer, Cape Cod edition coming soon. So, but there was something there, right? But they did. You said it already. They abandoned it. You really don't see the fisherman in a lot of the movie. I will just say that there was like I've told you about this before. I've had this DVD. It's called Boogeyman, where it just like talks about all these like, and it shows a scene. And the scene that they would always show for I Know What You Did Last Summer is the department store scene where he kills Elsa, Bridget Wilson, and that's the best stalking scene in my opinion of the whole movie, because up until this point he's already killed Barry, he's already killed Max has the most gruesome scene, but I do love everything that is in that department store scene, because you got the music playing. It's also like there's a lot of harsh lighting in this movie, right? Like a lot of like, you know, like even in like the campfire scene in the very beginning, like the moon is like very like harsh. It's a deep shadows and stuff. The hallway light when Helen gets back to her house, and her, by the way, her and Elsa have a very mean relationship with each other, just like telling each other off. I think it's all, you know, rooted in some sort of whatever family issue, obviously. But I will say that's all I really do want to say is the part where she being Helen is trying to get away from the fisherman, and she's running to the department store because she knows that her sister's there to save her, and the fisherman's coming. He's walking behind her, and it's like, it's playing that music. I was like, that's really good. That was a good little chase scene. Finally gets in. Her sister doesn't believe her, and then locks them in there because she's locking it, and the fisherman's already in there, right? So
yeah,
I do love that scene, but it's also because I watched that DVD a lot.
Yeah.
So I watched that scene a lot.
Yeah, I think I like the chase scene, but it gets to an unrealistic point where he's literally 5 feet away from the door and the sister doesn't see him. So that kind of turned me off. But once he's in the department store, I'm like, okay, now it's game on. Some of the better scares, a lot of cliche scares. But you mentioned the lighting, and in this scene in particular, but I feel like it kind of follows Helen's character too. Her bedroom, the house, everything about it. I was like, this should have absolutely have been the way it's shot, the character choices, the killer himself. This absolutely belonged in the 80s slasher realm. Like if it came out in 1984, cherry on top. It reminds me of like The Prowler, Graduation Day, like the themed slasher, and then just a plethora of characters. You know what I mean? I was like, man, you mentioned that lighting so perfectly, and this is the scene that you kind of see, and it's like, this feels very 80s slasher right now. It probably would have been perfect at that time.
Yeah, I also like that there's that like soft alt rock music just playing in the background of the department store. You
Yeah.
know, kind of I don't know if it's Chopping Mall or Night of the Comet, just like this idea that like I I don't know. I personally always like felt like, oh, this is not this comment's not going to age well or has not aged well. But what I'm about to say is like I always felt like because it was so public, department stores were kind of like safe. I don't know. It was weird, but like I just felt like, oh, there's too many eyes here for anybody to just like be willy nilly, like, you know, killing. So the fact
Mm,
that obviously there's nobody in the store, but it takes place there, it I don't know. It's like it feels so like this should never be happening at a store, you know.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, obviously the not the tactics, but the preference of the director wanting not a lot of blood and not a lot of gore is so obvious when he starts attacking Helen in the alleyway. I'm like, are you going to show us anything, god damn it, or is he just going to keep on killing her in between all these tires that we can't see a damn
Yeah, and
thing?
that was the scene to really lash out on some of the blood because I actually really like the scene. I know we're getting long on time here, but I love the fireworks. It's the theme of Fourth of July a year later. The fireworks are going off. It's lighting up this alley, and like there's salvation right there in front of her, of Helen. You know what I mean? She's been on the chase. She's jumped out of a building. She's kind of limping down, and there's salvation right there through this alleyway that's full of tires for some reason, and there's a parade going on. There's people everywhere, right? Like, just got to get there. She gets right to the end of the alley, but it's just cool. It's the way it's lit. It's flashing lights and life is right there, you know, like it's so close. And she gets to the end of the alley, hears something, turns around, and then boom, there's the fisherman to finish her off. But this was your chance to just rip one of the characters apart. But it's weird. It's the way it's done because it's like Helen is fighting back. I'm like, yeah, go Helen. And the fisherman is like hooking the tires and just kind of missing her. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, maybe she's going to fight her way out of this. And then you don't show us anything. And it's just kind of like a fade out. Like, well, I guess Helen's dead.
Yeah, maybe they left it that way. I don't know, to preserve the. I don't know. Maybe it was like they didn't want to show her in that way. It doesn't matter because even when the way he kills Barry is very like you see him going down and you see from here up on Barry that he's being stabbed, but that's it. You see some blood, kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, we've already kind of talked about the whole movie in a sense. There's going to be a big culmination. Ray is sketchy, but he's innocent, and it all comes to a head when he's trying to save Julie. Get on my boat, and we'll call the cops or we'll go to safety. And she's like, no, I suspect you. And all the while, this whole fisherman town, not one goddamn fisherman is on that dock except Ray and Ben Willis, right? That's his name, Ben.
Ben.
David.
Yeah.
Ben Willis.
David Egan, Ben Willis. Yes.
And that's it. And Julie. So it all comes to a head where he gets her on the boat and he takes off with her, and he's like, yeah, you should have known if somebody's dead, you better check on them. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? you need to have a better motive, but whatever.
Yeah, we got no more Slicker. Like the Slicker's gone. The possibility of an iconic slasher is gone. Everything's off. It's just now like a fisherman in like a hat and denim. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we've worn that before. Uh,
But I do appreciate, I do appreciate that there is a chase inside on the boat, and Ray is apparently Aquaman and is just being like, you think he's done, he gets kicked off this side. You think he's done, he gets kicked off this side. And he just finds a way to latch onto this boat. But I do love the tour of that boat because, like, I've always been impressed with fishing boats and how like they have all these compartments, and one compartment is full of ice. I love that shit.
Yeah. An interesting fact about that wasn't actual ice because they couldn't film it and have
right.
I Love Hewitt having but that was another like 80s thing is like you start finding the bodies, you know what I mean, and they're in the ice of the boat. It was cool to see. Like I actually really appreciated it because of the theme of the movie. Is like, yeah, there should be a finish on a fishing boat. You know what I mean? Like you see him kind of take the rope off. You see Ben take the rope off, and now we're out to sea. It kind of reminded me of the end of Cape Fear. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, let's finish the shit on the boat. You're right though about the Aquaman thing. Like it's hilarious. Ray just keeps finding a way to get on this damn boat and keeps finding a way off the boat too. So
yeah, because look, Ray is seeing a moment. He's like, "Holy shit! I can salvage the thing I thought I lost all long ago, my relationship with Julie. If I end up being the thing that or save her, if I help her, right? And all's well that ends in a hand decapitation. I'll just say, there's there. What are we seeing? Show it to us, Lance. What are we seeing all movie? It's I have this and I'm going to use this and look at this and I have it in my hand. It's the hook. It's the hook. It's the hook. And then, hey, why don't we just like keep that image, but not attached to a hand? So at one point they hook the fisherman up to a rope. He's the victim of his own demise or whatever the hell. His own gadgets get the best of him. So, he's the best fisherman because that's what we know him as. But no, he gets his hand cut off by getting attached to a rope. It takes him all the way up to the top of the mast, cuts his hand off. The hook stays in the net. But my favorite part, Lance, I swear to God, I'm like, that looks so much fun. When he gets flung off the boat into the water. I'm like, that looks like a fun ride.
It's even the yell that he kind of does when he goes like, I was like, oh, he's having a blast actually jumping off the ship with no hand.
It's like you would never hear anything. I mean, you kind of hear Freddie scream a little bit when he's kind of getting into business, but I'm just like, this guy's screaming like it's over, like you got him, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. But they cut his hand off and he falls into the water. So it's like, if he can survive a car wreck, he's definitely not dead.
Yeah, but I was like, cool, this is the origin story to the hook. That's what made me kind of think like, hey, Urban Legends is actually the sequel to this movie. But now he would need a hook, you know what I mean? And like the sheriffs come like, hey, is there any reason that this guy would want to kill you? And I love the look that Ray and Julie give each other. No, we don't know why he would want to kill us. No, absolutely not.
No, and we're going to go ahead and just go with our original post-high school plans. And we're just going to go ahead and have a good time with the rest of our lives. Cut to
Julie's back in college.
Yeah, so it's the next semester at least, right? So maybe the fall. And she's talking to Ray like I always that Danny at that age always dreamed that Jennifer Love Hewitt would talk to me on the phone. So
yeah,
she's talking about letting him ravage her and shit. I'm just like,
oh yeah, but you see the difference now. Like, okay, we didn't kill anybody. Actually, we got rid of this guy that's killing or trying to kill us. Now she's like completely happy, big old smiling Jennifer. It's a beautiful ending. She's stoked. She's obviously with Ray. She's gonna get ravaged by Ray. Ray's talking dirty to her. I love it. And then we get one more scare and a nod that the fisherman is still around and the perfectly written mirror. I still know.
Lance. Thank you.
Yes, Danny. So again, steam room. I'm guessing this might have been where the nude scene would have been. But yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Julie is in a towel. She's just gotten off the phone with Ray. The shower that she's getting into has steamed up the entire crazy looking bathroom. If there's a bathroom like that or a shower like that in a college, like I want to go to that college.
Yeah, I'll say
it's again, reminding me of the 80s. It was very like colorful, lots of tile. Like it just reminds me of something from the 80s. But then, okay, so steam room, we go in, we see the shower door. I still know. Fisherman busts out of the window, go cut to credits, and that is
I know what you did last summer, and I still know, Lance, and I'll always know, and those are actually were the next two movies. I still know and I'll always know. Oh God, I'm not talking about I'll always know. I refuse.
Have you seen it?
Nope. I saw the trailer and I'm like, I don't want to.
It looked like a TV movie to me, but and it wasn't direct too. But
yeah.
But there is like Danny said, we will talk about I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, the sequel to this one, because obviously we made a buttload of money, so got to make a sequel. Slashers are in, horror films are in, and that's an interesting one.
Yeah. My final takeaways from this movie is Ray is lost the whole time. He never understands what's going on. What? You found Max is dead? And at one point, Ryan Phillippe's like, "Cut the crap, Ray." And I wanted to say it too. I'm like, "Dude, cut the crap," because
Yeah.
you're gonna kill me.
There's a weird
that's one of my
plot hole to
takeaways.
Ray as well, by the way. The whole Billy Blue thing, the fact that he went and saw Missy, probably like that's kind of left on the table. Here, let me explain, and then Ben knocks him out. So we never got around to that. So
he does at the end, sort of when they're hugging. He's like, "Yeah, the guilt was eating me too much, and I had to go see her." But
she said that they were sweet on each other. That's where I want to know what the fuck was Ray doing over there. Anyway,
hey. Maybe Ray was like, "Hey, look, it ain't Jennifer Love Hewitt, but it's Missy who can apparently taxidermy the shit out of some animals. Let's just put it that way. She had a whole smokehouse. Missy's meat."
Sure. Missy's meat. I like it. Yeah, she's surviving out there. My final takeaway. I really liked this movie as a kid. I like it a little less now. I appreciate it for what it did for me. It's of our era. You know, Danny, you're kind of talking about this pre-show, which was like, what is Slashers Paradise? And we are born of the horror-thon. So this was our era. This was new to us. And, I have appreciation for it. And, you know, I'll have a place for it always, but
we're definitely born of this era. Definitely children of the video store. And this definitely was in theaters when we were old enough to watch them if our parents would have taken us, but was definitely on horror movie shelves. And the box art, very iconic, but still of the times. All the stars on the poster, and there's the box art. Sorry to do that to you, Lance, but I'm sure you would have done it anyway. Thanks, asshole. No, but I love that idea. Is like, yeah, these movies came out and they did all this stuff, but like you knew you were always going to be able to catch them on VHS in the video store. And I still remember seeing it, you know, and it was blue and it looked great because Jennifer Love Hewitt was on there. So what?
All right, Danny, how many fish hooks do you give I Know You Did Last Summer?
I'm going to go ahead and give I Know What You Did Last Summer a solid 2 hooks.
Nice. Great. Nostalgia will kill me on this, but I'm going to give it a 3. And it's based on nostalgia. I probably normally would give it a 2, but Little Lamb would be pissed at me. So 3 it is. 3 hooks, 2 hooks for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Join us next time for I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. That's Danny. I'm Lance, reminding you to
lock your doors,
bolt your windows,
and what are you waiting for, huh? What?
You all right?
Time.
You bumped your knee. Are you okay? You gotta wear knee pads, man. You need hockey pads.
Hockey pads.
All right, join us next time in our Slashers Paradise.
Can wipe that my shit don't smell grin off your face.
Hey, did you see anything you like?
Thanks for watching Slashers Paradise tonight. Please hit the like and subscribe button and turn on all of your notifications so you know the next time we post a video or go live.
And if you'd like an audio-only version of the show, search for us on wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. We're on all the platforms. We just ask that you leave a rate and review of 5 stars. And if you don't know what to write in the review section, put a recommendation of a horror movie you would love for Lance and I to talk about.
Yes, and if you'd like to get the full experience of Slashers Paradise, including videos and audio all together, go to DEDCandy.com. That's DEDCandy, or go to youtube.com/DEDCandy. Here's to you guys.
This is Slasher's Paradise. Sorry, I had to work that in.
And I'm going to drink on that.
Blended Canadian.